This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers, that is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 758, entitled Women Cease Their Public Misandry Through Fear of Masculist Attack. Description. Biconscious masculists are fed to the teeth with the public misandry of monoconscious feminists and bite their fucking heads off when they come across them. This flyer explains why and pushes a masculist campaign to force women, monoconscious feminists, to become biconscious by learning masculist ideas or to suffer horribly. The flyer itself. Women cease their public misandry through fear of masculist attack. By Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Monoconsciousness is so widespread in society at the time of writing, that's April 2026, that masculists are having a very frustrating time in getting their message across that gender oppression is very much a two-way street, and that women oppress men far worse with their awful, decades-lasting gender crimes against men. If you're a biconscious masculist, brackets, that is, you've had both your feminist and your masculist consciousnesses raised, that is, you see clearly that gender oppression is a two-way street, and that men's gender issues need to be given the same level of airing as women's issues, close bracket, then you'll be biting at the bit, feeling extremely frustrated and hateful at the awful hypocrisy of monoconscious feminists who, by definition, know only the feminist half of gender politics, knowing nothing of masculist ideas, which, if they did, would make them, by definition, biconscious. Biconscious masculists are fed to the teeth, in capital letters, with feminist monoconsciousness and aim to wipe it out by attacking monoconscious feminists so badly that these women become afraid to express misandrous views in public through fear that in their audiences will be enough masculists to bite their fucking heads off with verbally violent, hateful, masculist attacks. I consider it likely that over the next few years, masculists will have increased in number sufficiently and have become so angry and hateful at the awful monoconscious hypocrisy of feminists that when these men come across such women, they will explode in anger and crush the egos of these women who express such misandry. Since most masculists are biconscious, they don't deny that men oppress women. Men obviously do. You don't have to read feminist books to see that. Look at rape, sexual harassment of women by men, domestic violence against women by men, patriarchy, misogyny, etc., to see that the feminists have a case. However, what really pisses off the biconscious masculists is the awful hypocrisy and gender political cherry picking of these monoconscious feminists who don't bother to inform themselves how much worse women oppress men with, in brackets, what the masculists call the big three. That is, the worst 3 ways that women oppress men, which are far more serious and horrible than what the monoconscious feminists are complaining about when men oppress women. To a well-informed biconscious masculist, hearing some monoconscious feminists trashing men in public for the relatively minor ways that men oppress women, brackets, as seen by a biconscious masculist, close brackets, makes him see a red flag. He will see her as an utter hypocrite, since he is convinced, given his masculist biconsciousness, how much worse women oppress men. And this anger, this hatred of his, will cause him to explode at her, saying such things as, quote, Go fuck yourself, literally, since men, masculisted men, won't. You hated, misandrist, male-dumping, feminazi cunt. Learn some masculism, you monoconscious, hypocritical shit. Learn how much worse women oppress men with their big three, that is manslavery, divorce, rape, and forced fathering. These awful gender crimes that women commit against men are far worse than vice versa. So, we biconscious masculists have no patience with monoconscious feminazi cunts like yourself and bite your fucking heads off when we come across them. We see women like you who feel you have every right to trash men for men's gender crimes against women, when in reality women oppress men far worse, as utter hypocrites who need to be destroyed." End quote. Feminists are seen by masculists now as genociders, who are indirectly wiping out whole populations, since they have so poisoned the minds of young women with their monoconscious feminism that in many countries, West and East, 2/3 of young men don't even want to date them, seeing them, according to a Pew Research Center poll in the US in 2022, as, quote, undateable due to being too poisoned by feminism. When 2/3 of young men don't even date young women, they are obviously not going to give these young women their sperm, thus crashing the birth rate, and in time wiping out whole populations. So masculists feel a strong civic duty to wipe out monoconscious feminists by biting their fucking heads off whenever they come across them, and to do this often enough and hatefully enough that monoconscious feminists, that women, learn to fear expressing their monoconscious, misandrist views in public, through fear that there will be enough biconscious masculists in their audiences that these women will have their egos badly bruised and will feel so crushed by the hate expressed against them by highly articulate masculisted men that these women will feel real fear. Women evolved to fear males in the distant past. If a woman constantly irked a man, he had only to pick up his club and bash her brains out. Since men are 3 times stronger across the chest than women, doing this is easy for men. So women had to learn to exercise power over men via non-violent means, that is through psychology and emotional and sexual manipulation. There's a half joke that goes, men evolved to understand and manipulate the world. Women evolved to manipulate men, to sexploit them, to get them to give women and their babies male hunted meat, so the latter could survive. That is, women evolved to be prostitutes for men. That is, quote, female voice, "You, man, you give me your meat, and I, woman, will give you my cunt." Quote. This inherent, evolved female fear of men can be used to real advantage by biconscious masculists to put the fear of God into misandrist, hypocritical, monoconscious feminists by expressing real masculist hatred towards them when they trash men publicly, to the point that these women start thinking, quote, female voice, "What if there are some masculists in my audience at my next talk? Maybe I had better not trash men anymore in public." Quote. Upper middle class, university educated, biconscious masculists expect, in capital letters, similarly statist women to be biconscious. To remain monoconscious will be seen increasingly by masculisted men, brackets, who will be most men within a few years, given the rate at which masculist and MGTOW ideas are spreading amongst men via the manosphere, that is, men on the internet who talk about men's issues, men's lib, close brackets, as ignorant, as bigoted, as dumb, as low class, and very uncool. Monoconscious feminists will come under powerful moral pressure to become biconscious, Otherwise, they'll be harangued by both male and female masculists. The greater the proportion of women who are biconscious, the greater the moral conformist pressure on women to become biconscious. That is, they must learn some masculism, or be seen as utterly hypocritical bigots whose boyfriends will increasingly dump them for not becoming biconscious. Masculists terrify women by threatening them with the idea that if these women don't become biconscious before, underlined, their boyfriends/husbands/partners, then they'll be seen by the biconscious men in their lives as hypocrites, as bigots, as contemptible, and hence the likelihood that these men will dump these women goes up considerably. Masculists consider it likely that over the next few years, millions of monoconscious feminists will be dumped by their biconscious masculist boyfriends. These dumped women will then see with their own eyes their former boyfriends taking up relationships with biconscious feminist girlfriends, and that will powerfully influence them with their female herd mentality to convert themselves into becoming biconscious feminists themselves. Otherwise, they'll continue to rot on the shelf, dying slow, lonely, miserable, manless, loveless, sexless, babyless deaths, spat at by masculisted men, and utterly rejected both socially and sexually. There was a famous report made by Morgan Stanley, the US bankers, who claimed that by the year 2030, 45%, that's nearly half, of women between 25 and 45 will be single and childless. On the internet, there's growing awareness with hundreds of TikToks and YouTube shorts of young women in tears that they can't find a man, that no man wants them. There is thus growing use of the term, the great female loneliness epidemic. When masculists are everywhere, this female loneliness epidemic will only get stronger as biconscious masculists don't tolerate feminist monoconsciousness and bite their fucking heads off when masculists come across it. To speed this process along, if you are a well-informed biconscious masculist and you hear some monoconscious feminist trashing men in public, then bite her fucking head off with well-argued biconscious masculist hatred as shown above. Make women fear to be misandrist in public and push them hard to become biconscious by threatening them with total manlessness. 99.5% of women are heterosexual, so depend on men for their sex. So in practice, even the most rabid feminazi cunt is still dependent on men for her sex. So men have a powerful lever to push women into biconsciousness or force women to rot on the shelf. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Brackets. Click on the Masculist tab for 750 plus masculist essays and their videos. Google the terms London Real and Hugo de Garis to see videos on masculism at AI will kill 1 billion people. Do we create our exterminators? Professor Hugo de Garis London Real. Brackets. See the last half hour of this 2-hour interview for the masculist segment, as well as Countdown to Extinction, How AI Will Exterminate Mankind, again for the last 40 minutes on masculism. These flyers are available in text and video formats on Minds, BitChute, Odyssey, MGTOW.tv, X, and YouTube. I have over 1,000 masculist videos in 16 playlists on YouTube that can be accessed by searching for the channel name De Garis Masculist Videos. That's all one word. All 1,000 of my masculist videos in one long list in most recent first time order can also be found on X by searching the channel name De Garis Masculist Videos. That's 4 words. Ciao.